Give us an update on the tokenization. So your original proposal came out. Obviously, the NBA wasn't so hot on it.
Yeah.
You kind of reworked it a little bit. Where are you with that right now, and kind of what updates do you have for people?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I always have to preface these things by saying, you got to contact the broker dealer on file, Triturion Capital. We're doing everything obviously on the up and up. It is for accredited investors only. But pretty much, we started the process back. Well, shoot, when we started the process and went through all the legalese and everything, it was 18, maybe 20 months ago now. But when we kind of started talking to the NBA, it was in September of last year. Obviously, like you said, they weren't too hot on it. We continued to go forward, talk to them, kind of settle on a structure that was more like a pilot. It's a bond, obviously, and then attaching a safe to it for the larger business investment as well. But like I've said multiple times, I view this as the start of an asset class. It's about unlocking liquidity and creating fan engagement. So my bond is not necessarily the most interesting thing in the world, but as this continues to scale, there's going to be a host of different things. Any business can offer any product they want, and we all individually are our own businesses.
Yeah. And I think what's really interesting about this, right, is you came out with something that was really, really innovative. And then you kind of get walked back a little bit to something that, in your words is more boring, but it still gets it done. Right. And it's almost
Exactly.
like it's more important to get it done than it is to have the most innovative, sexiest structure right out of the gate. Is that fair?
Oh, that's 1,000% fair. See, and that's why I try to, communicate to people a lot when, they see the things like the GoFundMe, they see the things like the initial kind of spitballing of the offering and what was reported or misreported in some places. They think if you don't do the absolute sexiest thing that you somehow failed. But in a lot of ways, you don't necessarily think that you're going to get all that accomplished when you're dealing with legacy systems. You understand they're going to draw their hard line somewhere. But what you're saying is, this is all of what I want to do. Now tell me what you're going to allow me to do and where we can work together. And so there's typically a midline that, you get to because you were bold enough to say what it is that you wanted to do. But if you come out and you tiptoe, they typically would just try to hush you and move you over to the side and say you're not going to do it. And then, those people pack their bags and go home. You have to have enough gumption to, really kind of try it.
Yeah. Do you think that there would have been a different approach from the league's perspective if it wasn't so much drawn to the player contract and it had been more like sponsorships or something like that? Or is it just generally the idea of tokenizing a revenue stream from a player and having fans potentially invest in it? That's really what was kind of they were trying to wrap their head around.
Quite honestly, I think it's both. I think they don't necessarily want the athlete taking control of their revenue streams or their fan engagement, or really blurring that line between themselves and the fans, and really making it a cohesive unit in a sense. I think because their jurisdiction does deal with player contracts, that's why they were allowed to say something. If I was doing that with, Nike money, for example, they could hate it all they want to, but if they came out against it, I could very easily just say, hey, like, this has absolutely nothing to do with you, So that's where they had some jurisdiction, but at the same time, I don't think they would have liked it regardless.
Yeah. And then you came out with this GoFundMe, which when I
Yeah,
saw it, I literally said, this dude's either the biggest genius in the world or this is going nowhere. And so
yeah,
tell us kind of what was the impetus for even starting it, and then kind of how did you structure it?
yeah. No, so the GoFundMe thing, it's another kind of tool of fan engagement, right? Like, there's all these factors that play into a person making a free agency decision, and typically speaking, they try to keep it, off to the side, right? We talk about market size, fan base. We talk about state taxes. If a shoe company is going to push you to a team that has a lot of history, or a team that has a big media following, or whatever it is, or your hometown, etc. There's all these different factors, your family, your friends, all that, right? Well, what if you involve the fans in some of those decision-making processes, right? Like, the CBA pretty much states that you can't like take a discount or anything like that. So, when I tweeted and then went back and read the CBA, I was like, okay, I have to take out the minimum portion of it, but there's nothing in there that says they can't be factors in your decisions. Quite frankly, if I'm choosing a team based upon, their fan base and, how big of a global presence they are, then I'm choosing it because of those fans. I just didn't tell the fans that they're why I'm choosing them, and so kind of reimagining that. Now, when I set the actual price, once again, I set it sky high because there was no way that it was gonna get there. And the way I chose that, I actually just picked my three favorite numbers, put them together, multiplied it by the price of Bitcoin, and got it. People thought I was choosing like market value or something else. I literally took and I wrote it. I took 2625.8 and then multiplied it by the price of Bitcoin, which is probably I think like 9,200 at the time or something in that range. And that's how we got the sky high number. And the reason why I said, even if we're a dime short, it all goes to charity is because it was about the idea and the concept. How can we enhance fan engagement? How can we bring more people in? How can this ecosystem thrive in the middle of COVID? If there are no fans in the stands next year, but guys want to do some things that kind of keep people entrenched in the game, well, what happens if they literally chose a player's destination, or if a player had, a set of three destinations. He said, you know what, I'm torn between, Brooklyn and two other teams. You guys pick, and obviously they wouldn't be able to talk about money and things like that because that's between the player and the team negotiating. But if that was right for him, then he could do that. And if a GoFundMe campaign or another blockchain based, system allowed them to have that kind of voting power in there, then I mean, there's nothing saying that they couldn't do that. So, like I said, it's picked sky high number because I knew I wouldn't reach it. It would end up in a charity donation, which, I wanted to do good during COVID as well. But it was all about the concept and the idea.
Yeah. My brother texted me. I didn't see it at first when you posted it, and he texted me and he goes, "What's he doing?" And as soon as I read it, I said, he might be a billionaire by the end of this if people give him $25 million of Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like if they had it done, I probably would have been like, "Whoa, like what just happened?" I would have definitely been shocked to say the least. But yeah, I mean, the plan was definitely always to give the money to charity, and that's why I wrote it in there like that.